Is the world dying? Where will we go? Is life on another planet possible? One day life on Earth will end, and it won't be the first time.
Why have living things disappeared 5 times? We don't realize we've lost. In the past, our world experienced great extinctions, 5 great extinctions. After these 5 great extinctions, we can say that the 6th great extinction has begun. What are the 5 great extinctions? 5 times our world has seriously lost life.
What caused the previous extinctions?
So what happened 5 times when life disappeared? And how did it come back?
One day life on Earth will end, and it won't be the first time. What caused the previous extinctions? After 4.5 billion years of life on Earth, is it coming to an end? According to science, how many years does our planet have left to live? According to NASA, in how many years will the world end? If the Earth is no longer suitable for life, is life on another planet possible? Which planets offer hope for the survival of life? What are the risks that could bring about the end of humanity? Where will we go when that day comes? If catastrophic scenarios occur, do we have a chance of survival? Today we will examine the fate of our home, our world, in the light of scientific data. Just as all good things come to an end, life on Earth will come to an end. Scientific data and predictions make this clear. Science fiction novels and films have long dealt with this subject. Armageddon, The Book of Eli, Snowpiercer, Waterworld, The Day After Tomorrow are just some of the films about the end of the world. So, films aside, after how many years will life on Earth come to an end? What does science tell us? As frightening as it may sound, this is not the first time that major extinctions have occurred. We go to Professor Dr. Hussein Ozturk to find out the answer to these questions.
5 great extinctions occurred about 450 million years ago, 340 million, 250 million, 210 million, and 65 million years ago. In terms of geologic time, 1 in the Ordovician, 1 in the late Devonian, 1 in the late Permian, 1 in the late Triassic, 1 in the late Cretaceous.
The Mayans predicted the end of the world in 2012. Fortunately, this date turned out to be wrong, but we now have much more than predictions about the end of life on Earth. In fact, scientific research reveals many different scenarios for how life on Earth will end. It is difficult to predict which will come true, but one thing is certain: life on this planet will end one day. Our big, old, and beautiful Earth is 4,540,000,000 years old, according to scientific data obtained by geologists. We, anatomically modern humans, have been on this land for only 200,000 years. So what happened in the remaining 4,539,800,000 years? Evolution began with microbial organisms formed by bacteria and archaea, and continued with the formation of the atmosphere 3.5 billion years ago. The first organisms to use oxygen in their metabolism appeared 1.85 billion years ago. 450 million years ago, the first land plants appeared. About 300 million years ago, dinosaurs became the sole rulers of the world. This may seem a long time in terms of human life, but when you look at the history of the planets, it is not even a grain of sand on the beach. Nevertheless, it is more than enough to show how difficult it is to create life.
Of course, this doesn't happen in a short period of time. This extinction process takes between 2 and 5 million years, but it takes 5 to 10 million years to recover from this destruction. But we can always say that our nature has been restored over time.
Contrary to popular belief, dinosaurs are not the only creatures we have lost.
Bu kadar
We don't realize that we are losing creatures that are not very media friendly. The creatures we see today are only 1% of what we saw in the past. It's actually a miracle.
Aslında bu bir mucize.
We know that dinosaurs were killed by meteors, but what caused other extinctions?
Büyük volkan patlamaları.
Major volcanic eruptions are the main cause of major extinctions. Now the climate is changing, there is no single cause.
Bu iklim değişikliği.
These eruptions cause climate change. A volcano rains acids, it causes dust and gases, it causes cold weather. So it changes all the living conditions. But then there are other problems that affect the climate. There is massive melting of glaciers. When the glaciers melt, a thin layer of light fresh water covers the oceans. In other words, a thin layer of fresh water covers the seawater. The fresh water does not mix with the salt water underneath. Because the fresh water is light, it stays on top of the waves. It cannot mix with the water underneath. When it doesn't mix with the salt water, oxygen doesn't get to the bottom. When there is no oxygen at the bottom, mass death begins. This is an example of an extinction event.
Gitmeyince de kitlesel ölümler başlıyor. Bir tanesi bu.
But is our world at such risk today?
Geçmişte olan
What happened in the past can happen today. In other words, just as mass extinctions happened in the past, whatever the reasons were, they can happen today.
neden olmuşsa bugün de olabilir.
Acid rain from volcanic eruptions could be worse than anything we have ever seen, even in dystopian films.
Bu asit yağmurları başlayınca
When acid rain starts, the pH of the soil drops to 5, 3, 2. After that, the aluminum in the soil starts to dissolve. Arsenic starts to dissolve. Zinc starts to dissolve. All the toxic elements start to dissolve. So all the water that people can drink, all the water that animals can drink, starts to become toxic. So volcanic eruptions are what we are most afraid of right now. We have such large volcanoes that are in danger of erupting. For example, there is Yellowstone in America, a big volcanic eruption could destroy it. There are already big chains of volcanoes all along the Andes, or in the Pacific, all along the Pacific belt. The activation of these, the activation of more than one of them, and there are some factors that can activate them. For example, climate change, melting of the ice on the backs of the continents. When that happens, the continents start to rise because the load on them goes away. As the continents rise, all the other plates move in a different way and the system is disrupted. Then the melts in the earth, which we call magma, go up, erupt and affect our atmosphere. The whole event is the disruption of the atmosphere. Once the atmosphere is disturbed, everything is over.
The other major factor threatening the world is us, the humans.
At the same time as the human population is rapidly increasing, biodiversity is rapidly decreasing. In other words, we are rapidly losing species. We are losing species, but the human population is growing very rapidly. This rapid increase increases the pressure on other species. Because of this pressure, the world is going into another crisis. And that is the climate crisis.
What are the chances of surviving this catastrophic scenario?
Bence mağaralarda kendini kurtaran bir
Only in caves can there be some groups of creatures that can save themselves. In special sheltered places, in caves, there may be some species that can survive great acid rains, toxic gas emissions. Let's not forget that in the past the dinosaurs were wiped out, but some species that went underground saved themselves. They emerged when things returned to normal. Take the mouse generation, for example. That's how some rodents survived. Yes, there can be survivors of great destruction. Today humanity is trying, and should be trying, to build structures both on Earth and in the sky to deal with this situation. But we cannot save all of humanity, we cannot save billions of people. Unfortunately, we will all be like the fossils of the past that have disappeared, like the fossils we find in the discoveries of the present.
kayıtlanmış fosiller gibi insan fosillerini kayıtlanmış göreceğiz.
For centuries, scientists have conducted different studies to find the answer to the same question. The research by Dr. Rushby and his colleagues at the University of East Anglia into when the world will end suggests that we have 1,750,000,000 years of life left. But of course that is not so long for humans and other creatures that need complex living conditions. According to another study published in Astrobiology, between 1,750,000,000 and 3,025,000,000 years from now, the Earth will be in the hot zone of the Sun. That may be easy to say, but it would be catastrophic for all living things. Everything will melt, the seas will evaporate, and a deadly process of extinction will begin. Mankind will not even have a chance to approach the beginning of this process. The end of the process will only be witnessed by microorganisms, simple creatures that can survive in a heat-resistant environment. They will decide whether there is anything for us to fear or not, because human beings, who are sensitive to even the slightest climate change, will be extinct before all this happens if they do not find a new planet to live on. NASA is, of course, one of the institutions carrying out research on this subject. The calculations of the NASA research teams show that the time left for life on Earth is shorter than other studies. According to the modeling, exactly 1 billion years from now, when the data shows 1,000,000,2021, the amount of oxygen will drop to uninhabitable levels. Of course, this research is based on long-term studies. Kazumi Ozaki, one of the research team, said they ran the model 400,000 times. This is not a small number and shows how seriously the data should be taken. According to this research, solar radiation will be the main factor in the end of life. The sun, which is the source of life, will again play a leading role at the end of life. There will be no more oxygen on Earth because of the sun. In fact, this process has been going on for billions of years, even if we are not aware of it. Like an app running in the background on your phone, we are running out of oxygen every second without even knowing it. Our planet reached its highest oxygen level 2.5 billion years ago and has been losing oxygen ever since. The same study also shows that oxygen depletion is not the only danger facing the world. The biggest threat to life on Earth is global warming and the climate change it causes. It is also clear that if no further action is taken against global warming, we will have no more than 1 billion years left. Our world is now 1.5 times hotter than it was before the Industrial Revolution. This data alone shows that the countdown is accelerating. Although the average time for the end of all life on Earth is about 1 billion years, it is not difficult to guess that the time left for the end of humanity alone is much shorter. Scientists at Oxford University have compiled a list of risks that could destroy life on Earth. At the top of the list is climate change, in line with NASA research. It is well known that extreme climate change will lead to global starvation, especially in poor countries. Of course, the extinction is not limited to poor countries. It is said that this process may also lead to great migrations and great wars that can be defined as the beginning of the end of the world. According to Oxford University, one of the risks that could end the world is epidemics. This risk is made all the more frightening by the increase in known drug-resistant microorganisms and the fact that globalization means that epidemics are unlikely to remain local. Hollywood movies, in particular, often depict a scenario in which the world is destroyed by a meteorite strike. The extinction of the dinosaurs is a big part of this, of course. One of the last large meteorites to hit Earth was an asteroid or comet that struck Tunguska, Siberia, on June 30, 1908. This asteroid flattened an area of 1,600 square kilometers. 65 million years ago, in what is now Mexico, a 10-kilometer wide, 100 million megaton mass slammed into the Yucatan Peninsula and wiped out all the flightless dinosaurs. Such mass extinctions are estimated to occur every 100 million years. Along with climate change, pandemics and massive asteroid impacts, ecological disasters, biological weapons, nanotechnology and artificial intelligence are among the risks that could spell the end of humanity, according to research by Oxford University. Some scientists argue that in just 10,000 years there will be no human beings left on Earth. According to this view, sea levels will rise by 3 to 4 meters in 10,000 years due to global warming. According to the same research, after 13,000 years, the Earth will be reversed, so to speak, so that the axial tilt will be reversed, causing summer and winter to occur on opposite sides of the orbit. In 15,000 years the Sahara will disappear, and in 50,000 years Niagara Falls will disappear. According to the same theory, in 100,000 years the whole world will be under lava, and in 200,000 years all known star clusters will disappear. In 300,000 years, WR104, a double star system in the Pinwheel Nebula, will be destroyed in a supernova. The gamma rays from this explosion will threaten all life on Earth. This theory suggests that even if life ended long ago, the Earth will turn into a red planet in 5 billion years and be destroyed by the Sun in 7 billion years. We have discussed the research and theories about when the end of the world will come. Now let's look at whether it is possible to live on another planet in the universe if we have to leave this beautiful world one day.
Just as things that were dreams for us in the past have become reality today, for example, cell phones, video calls to anywhere in the world, things that are dreams today may also become reality in the future. There are studies about this. There are Mars-based studies on this subject all over the world. We think this research will increase. But when we go to another planet after destroying this Earth, it is certain that we will destroy it as well. If these destructions are man-centered, then we deserve everything that has happened or will happen to us. So if we go to Mars after making a paradise Earth uninhabitable, we deserve the worst.
The most basic human instinct is undoubtedly to survive. For this reason, research has been carried out for many years to find a way to escape if life on Earth one day becomes impossible. The possibility of life on another planet has become more widely discussed, especially since the 2000s. While the scientific world says that life on other planets may be possible, it does not seem possible with current technology. Although research has not yet found a planet where we can live in conditions similar to our Earth, it is thought that there is an Earth-like planet less than 10 billion light-years away. This distance may seem small in astronomical terms, but unfortunately it would take hundreds of thousands of years to reach these planets with current technology. However, some planets are more suitable for life than others. Of course, for a planet to be considered habitable, it must meet certain conditions. It is generally accepted that the basic requirements for life are liquid water, a source of usable energy, sunlight for photosynthesis and chemicals containing organic carbon. Establishing life on Mars is one of the great dreams of many scientists and science fiction fans. The fact that it is technically possible only adds to the excitement. But we have to accept that we do not yet have the technology to establish life on Mars, and we will not have it in the near future.
Mars'ta biraz su var. Yani Mars meteoritlerine
There is some water on Mars. So when we look at Martian meteorites and Martian rocks, we see some water. There are stream structures on Mars that show that there was water in the past. So we think that Mars is a more habitable area. A small area can be built to live on Mars, like a shelter. But it is not an easy task to make Mars the way we live on Earth.
Bugünkü anladığımız insanı Mars'a adapte etmek kolay bir iş değil.
A major step has been taken in recent years to overcome the oxygen problem on Mars. NASA sent a device to Mars that can convert carbon dioxide into oxygen, just as trees do on Earth. The device, called MOXIE for Mars Oxygen In Situ Resource Utilization Experiment, drew carbon dioxide from the Martian atmosphere to produce its first oxygen. The vehicle produced 5.4 grams of oxygen, enough to keep an astronaut healthy for 10 minutes, proving that the technology works on the red planet. But we still have big problems. One of the biggest is the lack of magnetic fields. According to NASA research, TOI 700D, 100 light-years from Earth, is a potentially habitable planet. This planet, slightly larger than Earth, orbits its star and receives 86% of the energy that Earth receives from the Sun. The planet in question is thought to be rocky. A year on this planet lasts 37 days. Scientists from the University of California, Los Angeles, recently announced that the Earth-like planet Kepler-62f, 1,200 light-years from Earth, may have the right conditions for life. Kepler-62f is about 40 times larger than Earth, has multiple atmospheres and is one of the top candidates for the planets we will one day need to leave this beautiful world. Humanity's galaxy hunt continues under the leadership of NASA. Although it is unlikely to be possible to go there in the near future, it does not seem impossible to find a planet with Earth-like living conditions. After considering all these catastrophic scenarios, we are left with only one question. Is it possible to save the world?
Dünyamızı bir katastroftan kurtarmak mümkün değil maalesef.
Unfortunately, it is not possible to save our world from destruction. No one can survive the coming extinction. Certain groups of people who prepare themselves in advance can continue their lives for a certain period of time. And this is not easy. Volcanic eruptions last 1,000 years, 5,000 years. They can go on for millions of years. So how long can you survive by solving the problem of soil oxidation, polluted atmosphere, polluted water?
Kirli sisteminden kurtularak hayatta ne kadar kalabileceğin sorusu zor bir soru.
Contrary to popular belief, not everything is in our hands.
Az tüketim. Daha
We will
minimal.
consume less, live more minimally, reduce our carbon footprint. We will reduce our water footprint, we will reduce our footprint in everything. That's how we have to live, that's where the world is going. So if we live that way, we can slow things down a little bit. But the Earth has its own natural system that is rapidly destroying the atmosphere.
O büyük atmosferi hızla yok eden.
The rapid loss of oxygen in the oceans, these periods without oxygen, which we call anaeroxide periods, and this acidification on the land, these are the real problems of the world. So there are some things we can do to prevent this situation, but not everything is in our hands. Why not? Because the Earth has been subjected to great destruction from time to time without human beings, we didn't do everything, but now we are sending gases to warm the atmosphere at a tremendous rate. This is causing the climate crisis and accelerating the process.
So what can we do?
Dünyanın bir tane sahibi yok ki. Dünyada bir sürü güçler var.
There is no one owner of the world. There are many big powers in the world. There are civil wars, internal conflicts, country wars, local wars. If you say let's save our world while all this is going on, who would be interested in this issue? So it is just a hope, and we cannot realize it. Maybe it can happen. We need to move towards a one-state, one-government world that will save the system. This world must be governed from one place. But this is not easy.
Yani bu dünyanın artık tek elden yürütülmesi lazım. Bu kolay bir şey değil.
Today, we will all investigate the secret of the doomsday planes of the United States.
created a White House virus task force. It's a big thing, a virus task force. I requested $2.5 billion to ensure we have the resources we need. And so far, we have lost nobody to coronavirus in the United States.
American President Donald Trump and his wife, Melania Trump, have tested positive for the coronavirus, and the U.S. has taken a critical step that has shocked the world. The U.S. government has flown aircraft known as the Doomsday Planes. So, what did that mean? When a head of state gets sick, it's usually treated. But conspiracy theorists and experts say that the U.S. move is a very clear message. The U.S. government has drawn your attention to these planes, calling them Doomsday Planes. What was the script written by the American government? What kind of apocalypse is expected when the president is ill? In American history, have Doomsday Planes ever taken off for another president? What does the Doomsday belief mean that airplanes take off in America? So many questions like these are waiting for answers. The details you're going to see in this episode are literally going to stick you in your seat. Here we go. How do you think Doomsday is connected to Trump's coronavirus? Doomsday means to stand up in Arabic. Muslims believe that when the time determined by God comes, the order of the universe will be disrupted and destroyed and the end of the world will come. According to the Islamic religion, on the day of the apocalypse, the dead will rise and everyone will gather in the field of the apocalypse to answer. So, what's an apocalypse for Jews? For Jews, Doomsday isn't really the end of everything. On the contrary, the Jews believe they'll be free on the day of judgment. The Jews believe they'll wake up on the day of the apocalypse and have an enlightenment. What about Christians? Like Muslims, Christians believe in the apocalypse. The Bible says there's going to be major disasters before the apocalypse. So, was Trump's infection with the coronavirus and the takeoff of doomsday airplanes a sign of a major disaster? For a question whose answer is obvious, let's dive into the topic a little deeper. Trump is a Christian. He's a Christian enough to pose with a Bible in his hand most of the time. How religious Trump is always debated in the American press.
I believe in God, I believe in the Bible, I'm a Christian, I have a lot of...
Everyone's religious beliefs, of course, are in their hearts. No one knows how much they believe in remotely. However, the American president is often the target of criticism in the American press for posing with the Bible. The 74-year-old American president contracted the coronavirus, despite his 1.90s height, large size, and very tight security. During Trump's presidency, dozens of conspiracy theories had occupied the agenda. For example, Trump said that I'm not going to talk about what I know about aliens, but the information I have is very interesting.
I don't want to really get into it too much, but personally, I tend to doubt it. You have people that swear by it, right?
Trump's many conspiracy theories, like this one, were essentially transformed into American politics. And when Trump got sick, the U.S. government wrote a script. When the President of the United States fell ill, an apocalypse was expected. It's hard to remember if doomsday planes have flown in for another president in American history. Or if he's taken off, it's hidden in secret. This is a plane that you're looking at on the screen right now called Night Watch, which is an 4B Night Watch that is one of the Boeing 747-200 aircraft that served in the U.S. Air Force. Outwardly, it resembles an innocent passenger plane. Thousands of people may even have gone on vacation with this model plane. Boeing 747-200 model. The biggest feature that distinguishes this aircraft from others is that in the event of a possible nuclear war, the aircraft is equipped for use as a military command and control center. The plane named Night Watch took off in the minutes when it was announced that Trump had contracted the coronavirus. The reason for this was that in the event of a possible war, there was a war room on the aircraft that would house the President of the United States and the rank of military commander. This aircraft, which resembles a beautiful passenger plane from the outside, houses many advanced technologies that will allow the command echelon to manage the war from the air. Trump, who was infected with the coronavirus at that time, would be able to direct the war from the E-4B Night Watch aircraft together with the command echelon, despite all kinds of threats. The US government thought that when President Trump got sick, hostile forces would attack their own country. The aircraft's outer coating was designed to be unharmed by a possible nuclear attack. The aircraft, named Night Vision, also had the ability to offer defense against a possible electromagnetic attack. On this plane, Trump could both receive coronavirus treatment and lead the war. It also uses analog systems because the aircraft is more resistant to cyber attacks. Another highlight of the E-4B Night Watch aircraft is that it can stay up in the air for exactly 1 week, receiving a fuel boost in the air. So if there was a possible war going on when Trump fell off the coronavirus, a plane called Night Vision, which includes President Trump, would be able to stay in the air for exactly 1 week without landing. So, while the Americans were under attack, living the day of the apocalypse, President Trump and the military authorities were going to fight in the air protected. Let's get to the other doomsday plane. In a possible war, America would have a day of apocalypse, with the president and his command post safely in the air. The E-6B Mercury, capable of firing American naval and land nuclear missiles, also took off on the day of the apocalypse. The flight of the two aircraft was the standard safety protocol in case the president fell ill. It really sounds like a movie script. The launch of the E-6B Mercury planes sends messages to countries capable of launching submarine-launched ballistic missiles and intercontinental ballistic missiles, said American expert Tim Hogan. These aircraft are capable of killing anyone in the world if a state attacks the United States with nuclear weapons. So if there was an apocalypse war, when there were 8 billion people in the world who were in danger, the people who were on the doomsday plane wouldn't even have a nosebleed. The American press shared a lot of stories about doomsday planes. However, one of them wrote the most prominent lines. Forbes evaluated doomsday planes as giving a message to rival countries such as Russia, China, and North Korea that President Trump is ill, but his system of nuclear command is intact. 2 doomsday planes that took off on the day President Trump and his wife tested positive for coronavirus were a message to the world. So, do you think the world is heading towards an apocalyptic war? See you in the news section.
Allah deprem oluyor! Deprem oluyor!
Each one more violent than the last. Each a harbinger of the great danger to come. Today we will be looking at the biggest earthquakes that have ever happened in the world. Let's watch. Earthquake is the name given to natural events that cause the energy under the Earth's crust for various reasons to reach and shake the Earth with seismic fluctuations. It usually occurs as a result of the fracture of faults underground. However, earthquakes can also occur as a result of volcanic activities, landslides, man-made explosives, and nuclear tests. The power generated by earthquakes is enormous. Depending on the location, position, and distance from the Earth, the destructive effect increases or decreases. About 1 million earthquakes are recorded each year. But 500,000 of these earthquakes are too small to be felt. Of the 500,000 earthquakes that are felt in a year, only 100 are destructive. We can give the following example to explain the great power generated by earthquakes. The energy generated by an earthquake of magnitude 8 is equal to the energy generated by the simultaneous use of 70 atomic bombs. This is an image of the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Imagine if 70 bombs were dropped here at the same time. It's hard to imagine, isn't it? It's just as hard to imagine the energy released in a magnitude 8 earthquake. According to research, life on our planet, which is 4.5 billion years old, has been reset 5 times so far, but each time it has started again. Our world has been plagued by natural disasters of various kinds since its existence. When we add human impacts to this, the scale of these disasters reaches horrifying levels. Mother Nature takes back what she has given us many times over, like revenge. Let's take a look at the biggest earthquakes on record and their terrible aftermath. Valdivia earthquake, May 22, 1960 in Chile, 9.5. The Valdivia earthquake in southern Chile was the strongest earthquake recorded in recent history. This earthquake occurred at the junction of the Nazca and South American tectonic plates. In this region, the Nazca plate plunged beneath the South American plate, causing a large accumulation of seismic energy. As a result, this energy was suddenly released, causing a massive earthquake. The Valdivia earthquake, measuring 9.5 on the Richter scale, lasted for about 10 minutes, and its after effects were much more devastating. Large tremors and shifts in the Earth's crust were observed over a wide area in Chile. The city of Valdivia was literally wiped off the map. After the earthquake, several dormant volcanoes in Chile were reactivated. The tsunami triggered by the 9.5 magnitude Valdivia earthquake reached many countries in the Pacific Ocean and caused widespread destruction. In addition to Chile, the tsunami also affected Japan, Hawaii, New Zealand, the Philippines, the west coast of the United States, and Australia. As a result of the Valdivia earthquake and the natural disasters that followed, almost the entire infrastructure and economy of the country came to a standstill. Although the exact number cannot be determined, it is estimated that the number of people who lost their lives in the earthquake is between 5,000 to 6,000 people, and it is stated that tens of thousands of people were left homeless. The earthquake and the subsequent recovery process cost approximately $600 million. Alaska earthquake.
A massive heaving of the earth, followed by giant waves of water and an outbreak of fires, has killed an untold number of persons and devastated sections of the Pacific coast from Alaska to California.
The March 28, 1964. Alaska earthquake occurred in the zone of interaction between the Pacific and North American tectonic plates. In this region, the great energy accumulated as the Pacific plate dipped beneath the North American plate was suddenly released on March 28, 1964, resulting in a massive 9.2 magnitude earthquake. The 3-minute earthquake was centered in Prince William Sound, and the violent tremors were felt across a wide area of Alaska. Cities such as Anchorage were severely damaged, and many buildings and infrastructure were destroyed. In some areas, the force of the earthquake caused the ground to rise or fall permanently. After the earthquake in Alaska, a very large tsunami occurred. The 9.2 magnitude earthquake, followed by a tsunami, wreaked havoc on Alaska's coastline and other areas in the Pacific Ocean. Coastal settlements such as Valdez, Whittier, Seward, and Kodiak suffered heavy damage. Tsunami waves reached the west coast of the U.S. and Hawaii. Hundreds of people lost their lives due to the Alaska earthquake and the tsunamis that followed. The damage caused by the earthquake is estimated at $2.30 billion, according to today's economy. Sumatra earthquake. On December 26, 2004, a massive earthquake struck off the coast of the Indonesian island of Sumatra, making it one of the most devastating natural disasters in modern history. The earthquake itself, measuring 9.1 on the Richter scale, caused serious damage to the northwest of Sumatra Island. But the real destruction was wrought by the giant tsunamis that followed the earthquake. The giant waves affected Indonesia, Sri Lanka, India, Thailand, and 11 other countries in total. The earthquake lasted for 10 minutes and the devastation was followed by tsunami waves up to 30 meters high. Settlements, infrastructure, and ecosystems along the coastline suffered extensive damage. The Sumatra earthquake and subsequent tsunami became one of the deadliest natural disasters in history. 250,000 people lost their lives and nearly 1.5 billion people were left homeless. Tohoku earthquake, March 11, 2011. On March 11, 2011, the earthquake that struck the Tohoku region of Japan was one of the strongest seismic events ever recorded in the country, causing a massive tsunami that turned into a historic disaster. This 9.1 magnitude earthquake affected not only Japan but the whole world. The Tohoku earthquake triggered a chain of disasters, including tsunamis and nuclear disasters. The epicenter of the 6-minute earthquake was off the coast of Japan's Tohoku region, and severe tremors were felt throughout the country. The tsunami waves following the earthquake caused massive destruction in coastal areas. The city of Sendai and its surroundings were particularly badly damaged. Tsunamis triggered by the Tohoku earthquake caused severe damage to the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. This led first to radiation leakage, and then to a nuclear disaster, exacerbating the effects of the earthquake. The nuclear leak has caused great concern all over the world. The Tohoku earthquake and the tsunami that followed killed and disappeared thousands of people. Hundreds of thousands of people were left homeless, and infrastructure and the economy were badly damaged. The effects of this earthquake continue to this day. Severo-Kurilsk earthquake. On November 4th, 1952, a massive earthquake on the Kamchatka Peninsula, in the far east of the Soviet Union, was recorded as one of the most powerful seismic events of the 20th century. Measuring approximately magnitude 9, the earthquake caused a large-scale tsunami that affected other shores of the Pacific Ocean. The tsunamis triggered by the Kamchatka earthquake reached Hawaii, Japan, and even the west coast of the United States. These giant waves posed a great threat to coastal settlements. The earthquake was followed by 3 giant tsunami waves of 15 meters, destroying coastal homes, businesses, and ports. As the Kamchatka Peninsula is remote and sparsely populated, the direct human loss and destruction caused by this earthquake was relatively limited. However, the impact of the tsunami waves in other regions caused material damage and human casualties. Tsunami waves also hit the coasts of Alaska, Chile, and New Zealand. The Russian government did not want to share information with the rest of the world after the event, so the death toll was recorded as 2,336. However, the real number is estimated to be much higher. Shenzi earthquake. On January 23, 1556, an earthquake in the Chinese province of Shenxi is considered one of the deadliest natural disasters in human history. According to historical records, approximately 830,000 people died in this earthquake. The Shenxi earthquake occurred in northwest China, one of the most active seismic regions in the world. This region is the interaction area of many tectonic plates and has been home to many large earthquakes throughout its history. Modern science does not have a clear view on the exact cause and magnitude of the 1556 earthquake due to limited historical sources. The earthquake was felt over a wide area in Shenxi province and caused massive destruction, especially in mountainous areas. The construction techniques of the time and the nature of the densely populated settlements exacerbated the effects of the disaster. Many houses, temples, and other structures were completely destroyed. The biggest impact of the earthquake was in terms of human casualties. According to historical records, around 830,000 people lost their lives. This is known to be the highest human loss of life as a result of a single natural disaster recorded in history. Economically, the region was also severely affected, with many villages and towns completely destroyed. It is claimed that some lakes and freshwater basins were completely lost. Tangshan earthquake.
结果我都奔着我父亲在丰润县火石营工作，奔许国庄车站在这去，结果从那儿所有的房屋倒塌，一片废墟，连道没有了，我都绕着弯走，走的风烂一个上下去大楼倒塌的大楼，那叫破喊救命的，结果我都开始救人，8名国家干部。 最后也都剩2、3名活着，咱们救的那个人太惨了。最后我又呼呼上院道。
The Tangshan earthquake occurred on July 28, 1976 in Tangshan Province, China. The magnitude of the earthquake was estimated to be between 7.8 and 8.2. The Tangshan earthquake was caused by major tectonic movements in northern China. This region is one of the most active seismic areas in China and has witnessed major earthquakes many times in history. The destructive power of the earthquake, which lasted only 10 seconds, was so great that the entire city was almost leveled. According to official records, 242,000 people lost their lives as a result of the earthquake. However, according to the estimates of experts, this number is much higher. Hundreds of thousands of people were injured in the Tangshan earthquake, and millions were left homeless. The city of Tangshan had to be rebuilt from scratch after the earthquake. Haiti earthquake. Another earthquake that occurred on our planet and caused great devastation was the Great Haiti earthquake. On 12th of January 2010, an earthquake struck Haiti, an island country in the Caribbean, with a magnitude of 7. But its intensity was so great that the capital of the country, Port-au-Prince, and the surrounding settlements were wiped off the map, so to speak. 2010, Haiti earthquake was caused by tectonic activity in the Caribbean. The devastating impact of the earthquake, which took place in the zone of interaction between the North American and Caribbean tectonic plates, was made all the more terrible by the fact that the country's infrastructure and living spaces were built without earthquake resistance. This devastating earthquake destroyed almost the entire city, including hospitals, the presidential palace, schools, the parliament building, and prisons. Since Haiti is already an economically depressed country, the damage caused by the earthquake has multiplied many times over. Approximately 300,000 people lost their lives, and an estimated 1.5 million people were left homeless after the earthquake. The earthquake caused billions of dollars of material damage. In the aftermath of the Haiti earthquake, a massive humanitarian aid mobilization has begun around the world. Many countries, international aid organizations, and volunteers have contributed to emergency relief, healthcare, and reconstruction efforts. However, difficulties in the distribution of aid and inadequate planning exacerbated the effects of the crisis. Today, hundreds of thousands of Haitians are still homeless and struggling to survive in inadequate conditions. Turkey and Syria earthquake. And we are going back to a very recent history. In February 2023, the southeastern region of Turkey experienced a nightmare with a succession of devastating earthquakes. The first earthquake occurred on 6th of February in Pazarcık district of Kahramanmaraş at 4:17 a.m. with a magnitude of 7.7. The second earthquake occurred only 9 hours later in the Elbistan district of Kahramanmaraş province with a magnitude of 7.5. 11 cities were affected by this succession of deadly earthquakes, with major devastation in Kahramanmaraş, Gaziantep, Adıyaman, Hatay, and Malatya. The Kahramanmaraş earthquake was caused by the complex tectonic structure of the Anatolian plate. Turkey is located in the interaction zone of the African, Arabian, and Eurasian tectonic plates, making the region seismically active. The devastation after the earthquakes was so great that the Turkish government issued a Level 4 alert. Level 4 alert is used in emergencies, such as natural disasters and epidemics, and means calling on international organizations and countries to help. The earthquakes mostly affected Turkey and Syria. It was also felt in many countries including Cyprus, Lebanon, Iraq, Israel, Jordan, and Egypt. In the aftermath of 2 devastating earthquakes in Turkey and Syria, thousands of people lost their lives, and hundreds of thousands were injured. Millions were also left homeless. It is estimated that 4 million people migrated from the region after the earthquakes. In the aftermath of the earthquakes, a major fire broke out in Hatay's Iskenderun port, which could only be brought under control after 3 days. Teams from all over the world participated in search and rescue operations from the first moment of the earthquake. Turkey and Cyprus declared 7 days of national mourning, while Kosovo, Albania, North Macedonia, and Bangladesh declared 1 day of national mourning. This disaster has gone down in history as the biggest earthquake in the country after the 1939 Erzincan earthquake. These successive devastating earthquakes have gone down in history as the disaster with the highest loss of life among the earthquakes in the country's history. It was also the deadliest earthquake in the world after the 2010 Haiti earthquake. After the earthquakes, more than 11,000 aftershocks were recorded in the region. On February 20, 2023, 15 days after the earthquakes, new earthquakes occurred, this time in the city of Hatay, which was already badly damaged by the first earthquakes. 2 more earthquakes of magnitude 6.3 and then 5.8 occurred in the Defne and Samandağ districts of Hatay. After these earthquakes, the Euro-Mediterranean Seismological Center issued a tsunami warning for the coastal areas. After these earthquakes, hundreds of aftershocks were recorded in the region, the largest of which was 5.8. The city of Hatay, considered one of the oldest settlements in the world, was officially wiped off the map. Many historical monuments were also damaged. In the villages of Hatay, after the earthquake, giant cracks appeared, and even trees were observed to split in 2. In particular, the 500-meter-long rift in Tepehan village horrified those who saw it. Earthquakes and their effects always scare us. A certain period of time passes after each major devastation, and we go back to our normal lives. We underestimate the power of nature and forget what kind of threat we are facing. We do not take precautions on material grounds and wait for the next big destruction. Are we resigned to our fate, or is this gross negligence? This is another topic for discussion. Poor materials used in buildings, tall buildings constructed without any ground investigation, responsible people who disregard human life and make decisions to make a little more profit. While these negativities are a big reality in our lives, we still ask, are hundreds of thousands of people dying just because of earthquakes? We look forward to your comments on this topic. If you like our video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and share the video link with your close circle. This way, you can support us. See you in the next video. Goodbye.